What was the turning point for the war in Europe, and how did that change things for the Allies? So the turning point yesterday, this is where we left off. The turning point yesterday was the Battle of Stalingrad. So that's part one to your answer. The Battle of Stalingrad was a turning point in favor of the Allies. We now have the Germans on the defensive. They are now retreating. And the idea is to completely surround both the German and the Italian army, to surround them on all sides, both the Eastern and the Western Front, as well as coming up through what we refer to as the soft underbelly of Italy. Okay, so that was your bell ringer question. That was your answer. That was your review from where we left off yesterday. And without further ado, we are going to jump straight into where we left off with your notes from yesterday and finish up the battle in Europe. Again, if you are a big war enthusiast, I do apologize that we have to run through this so fast. Taking 2 weeks for World War II does not do it justice, that's for sure. Okay, all right, so let's take a look in your notes where we left off yesterday. So again, this kind of is where we left off yesterday, talking about the Battle of Stalingrad happens in 1942. Again, Germany is now on retreat. We end up surrounding them on the Eastern Front, February of 43. And Stalin is trying to keep them occupied on the Eastern Front so that British and American troops can come in on the Western Front. All right, so here's what I was talking about yesterday. I kind of got ahead of myself as far as the notes go. So there are several locations that we are actually fighting in World War II that we don't really spend that much time talking about, and it might not be something that you even remember, even if you have heard somebody talk about World War II before. And Northern Africa is a location that a lot of people forget that there was actually fighting and battles taking place. So the Germans are going after several countries and territories in Northern Europe. And they've got, this guy is actually going to be a test question on your unit test. Erwin Rommel is who is going to be commanding the German Afrika Korps forces in North Africa. He's known as the Desert Fox. That's kind of his nickname because he was sneaky, he was fast, he was hard to catch. But the German and the American and British forces will track him down. The battle takes place at El Hameen, and they are able to surround and capture Erwin Rommel and his forces. And again, the campaign is to work our way from Northern Africa, and I'm sorry I don't have a map so that you can visualize, is to go from Northern Africa through what we call the soft underbelly up through Italy, capture Italy, and then we can go and work on surrounding Germany on all sides, Eastern Front, Western Front, and from the south coming up from Italy. So that is the plan. Again, German troops are making their way through Italy, retreating. They are now on the defensive. Now we're getting ready to talk about, so we talked about how we're getting them on the Eastern Front, how we're coming up through Italy. Now we're going to talk about how we go after German forces on the Western Front, which happens to be one of the biggest battles that is going to take place. And this is probably one of the more well-known battles in Europe during World War II, and that is D-Day. So D-Day is known as Operation Overlord. This is going to be planned and operated by Dwight D. Eisenhower, which you need to remember for a couple of reasons. One, he was a phenomenal general. He is going to be on your test at the end of the week, but also he's going to be a future president. We've talked about this before. We've got so many U.S. presidents that have been or were former military leaders, all right? You've got Washington, you've got Grant, you've got several in between, right? So Eisenhower is going to be over the operation happening in Europe. And then we're going to talk about who's over the campaign in the Pacific here in a minute as well. You already know who he is. We just haven't got that far yet. So Eisenhower is going to be over the invasion of Normandy. Again, this is known as D-Day. It happens June 6th of 1944. We are nearing the end of the war in Europe. We haven't talked about what's happened in the Pacific. So we are coming at the German and Italian forces from all areas. We're coming up the beaches of Normandy. We've got paratroopers coming down behind enemy lines. And if you can even imagine how scary that would have been to be a paratrooper going down behind enemy lines. I'll show you a visual here in just a second. But this is one of the biggest battles that takes place during World War II. We are hitting them with everything we've got. As many men as possible. We are storming the beaches. We've got Omaha Beach, which is where most U.S. soldiers will be located, but also some on Utah Beach. And believe it or not, we don't really talk about this as well. We actually do have other countries that are assisting us during World War II, but they don't play as, I guess, a major role. So you don't hear us talk about it as much. We do have Canadian as well as British troops that are helping us on Operation Overlord for D-Day. We are storming the beaches. We're coming up and we're coming down behind enemy lines to completely surround the Germans. We are able to push in. Now this again happens in June. We push in and we are able to liberate France within a month. So in August of 44, Paris is free. We liberate France. And now we are continuing to push in to Germany. So we do have the Germans on the run. We've got General George Patton that will also be assisting. But we're about to talk about one other major battle during World War II. This is a little bit of a visual for you. I really wish that I had a better map in this. So here's France, again, Paris down here. This is Normandy. We're pushing in from the beaches of Normandy, working our way in from the English Channel. Again, pushing the Germans back. And these pictures just don't do it justice about the hundreds of thousands of soldiers, battleships. You see them all out in the English Channel. We're bringing in everything. We are hitting them with everything we have. Here's a picture of our paratroopers. Again, if you can imagine how scary that would be coming in behind enemy lines, you're kind of helpless as you're on the way down. I shared that story about that gentleman he was a paratrooper who lived and experienced D-Day. And that was like on the anniversary of it. That was one thing that he said he would love to do again. So there's your picture of paratroopers coming down.
Can I have all wrestlers report to the gym? Once again, can I have all wrestlers report to the gym? Thank you all.
All right, another thing that you have to keep in mind is if we have hundreds of thousands of soldiers, that also is going to include a huge number of casualties, accidents, guys that are going to be coming back suffering from shell shock, PTSD, etc. And again, this doesn't really do it justice, but after the battle is over, this beach is just completely covered and littered in bodies. If we have time, there's a video clip from America, the Story of Us that shows you, I guess, more of a reenaction of what it would have been like. And it is crazy because one of the things they have is they have units that have these massive balloons attached to them. It kind of makes me think when you watch parades, like if you've ever seen the Macy's Thanksgiving parade or the Christmas parade or whatever, and they've got these giant balloons that are, people have a vest on that they're attached to, that they're trying to, walk with them as they go. Well, we had units that had these massive blimp balloons connected to them that were supposed to act as coverage for the guys that were on the ground coming up the beaches, because we do have airplanes going over top. And one of them tells his story in that video clip that they couldn't hold a gun and hold the balloon and have it strapped to them. So, they were a little helpless, but once the balloon eventually would be shot down by bullets and everything. So once the balloon gets shot down, they are to detach from it, and then they can draw their weapon and they're officially entering into the fighting. And he said that was the scariest thing ever. He, felt like a sitting duck having to do that. but it's crazy. Anyway, if we have a chance, we're going to watch a clip from that as well. All right, the next major battle that's going to take place is the Battle of the Bulge. This is the largest land battle that takes place. This is going to happen in December of 44, within the last few months of World War II. It is all about to come to an end in 45. It is the last German counter-offensive. Again, Germans are now officially on retreat. We are tracking them down back in through Germany. Massive bombing raids. We talked about this yesterday, the idea of total war, that we're going to hit them as hard as we can, trying to take out all supply lines, destroy all resources, and pretty much destroy their ability to continue to fight. Because if you destroy their factories and they have no more weapons and ammunition, I mean, they can't continue. So that was the whole idea. Destroyed oil refineries, again, all access to resources. Roosevelt is getting ready to win his 4th term in office. He wins again in 1944. Unfortunately, it's April of 45 that he passes away. So he doesn't get that far into his 4th term in office, but he is our only president in American history to ever be elected that many times to office. So you need to remember who his vice president was, obviously. Harry Truman was his VP during his 4th term in office. Soviet armies are pushing in from the east. Stalin has a very different philosophy than what Churchill and Roosevelt do. Stalin wants blood. He wants money. He wants land. He wants reward for World War II. And so he is setting his sights on going after Germany, taking Berlin. What is Berlin to Germany? That is their capital, yeah. So he wants to take the capital. He wants to take over and control. He wants to go after, whenever the war is over, his idea is that now we're going to start picking apart the carcass that is Germany and Italy, and to, what is the saying? To the victor go the spoils. He wants to know what is going to be the Soviet Union's after the war is over, and he believes that taking control of the capital should be part of that. Major bombing raids are happening. That's exactly what you're seeing with these planes right here. Bombing raids will continue to take out factories and industries. I mean, after the war is over, Germany and most of the middle of Europe are almost unrecognizable because of the damage. You see whole entire city blocks are taken out. These are actually bodies. I know it's black and white. It's really hard to see exactly what this is. But these are rows and rows of dead bodies that have been stacked up. And unfortunately, part of a total war philosophy is a mass loss of life. And that's not just with soldiers. That's going to be with civilians as well. Oh, I didn't mean to go that far. Hold on. Sorry. All right. So again, another thing that's going to be happening is we know that the Germans, the Nazi Party, Hitler, they all know that the end is near. It is not possible for Germany to continue. And with that being said, we're going to talk about VE Day. And I haven't looked. There was a calendar up in the workroom, and I meant to grab it to look because there was a friend of mine, and she posted it on Facebook. She said, I actually got like an actual calendar, not just one on my phone, but an actual calendar that she had on her desk. And she said, I was flipping through and I saw in May VE Day. And she's like, what the heck is that? Does anybody know what that is or what that stands for or why that's even there? And I meant to check to see if they still put it on there. But she was talking about Victory in Europe Day. That's what it stands for. All right. So the end of the war in Europe is about to happen. It happens May 7th of 1945. It is known as VE Day, also known as Victory in Europe Day. So here's how it comes down. We've got the big three. Make sure you know who the big three are. That's another test question. It's Roosevelt, Churchill, and who's number three? Stalin. Very good. Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. Those are the big three. Anytime he talks about the big three, that's who it is. The big three continue to discuss how things are going to go once the war is over. The U.S. and British forces are pushing towards Berlin. However, our philosophy is not to go after blood once it is all said and done. Our philosophy, and it'll be the same for Japan, that we want to help rebuild. We want to help rebuild with pushing democracy, obviously, and that is not what Stalin wants, which is a topic for a little bit later on. Eisenhower doesn't want to go after Berlin. Again, he's not there for revenge. He's not there for the spoils of war. We're there simply to end the fighting, make sure that Germany does take an unconditional surrender, and then take the steps to help them to rebuild. Here's the other thing that we're going to find. As we push into Germany and as we push into Europe, that is when the whole world will realize what's been happening underneath all this, which is the Holocaust. Death camps and concentration camps are revealed. We find out what it's truly been going on kind of behind the scenes, if you will. Roosevelt passes away in April of 45. Again, I said Truman is his VP. Truman takes over as president, and it was really sad. My heart really breaks for Truman because he is a really great guy. He's a very smart, intelligent man. But so many people had been with Roosevelt and his administration for so long that, no lie, they actually started resigning their office. They said, I can't imagine working for anybody other than Roosevelt. And I was like, dang, man, that's pretty rough. You come into office and you're coming into office at the end of a major world war, and you got people that are like, I'm sorry, I'm good. I'm just going to go on. You find somebody else, because he's like, they know that he's not going to do things like Roosevelt would have. No two people are alike. Even you and your bestie, right, aren't just alike. So they're like, I can't imagine working underneath anybody else other than Roosevelt. So he's kind of standing in the shadows. Yeah.
So they didn't know, like the rest of the world didn't know about the Holocaust until after the war?
A majority, yeah. I mean, even countries right next door.
Really?
Yeah, whether they mean it or not, they were, we had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of them did it that way just because kind of the whole idea of ignorance is bliss, that if they say they didn't know, nobody's going to get mad at them for not intervening, not helping, not stopping. And so I do question sometimes how much neighboring countries actually knew, but especially for us here in the United States, we were blown away. We had heard rumors, and especially during the circumstances of being in a major world war, how much do you trust rumors that you're hearing too, so.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's something that kind of after the fact, when it's all over and said and done, of, well, maybe we should have been listening better. Maybe we should have paid attention. Maybe that boat full of Jewish refugees, we should have let come in the United States and not just tried to stay out of it for neutrality reasons, but it can be argued either way, that some knew about it more than what they're willing to admit. But for the most part, it was a shock. And then when we realized the numbers,
That's crazy.
yeah, we were blown away at the numbers. So Truman takes over for Roosevelt. Hitler commits suicide. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories about that as well. But we have Hitler committing suicide in April of 45. We officially surround and Germany surrenders May 7th, 1945, known as VE Day, Victory in Europe Day. So we've got pictures of the big three. Yeah, here it is. Pictures of big three. We got Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin. We got the Allies coming in to officially surround Germany. And here is Truman being sworn into office as our new president. So he will be the one to officially, because again, VE Day doesn't happen until May of 45. So he is the president that will officially end the war, both in Europe and in the Pacific. There we go. Okay, so we're going to get into the Pacific tomorrow. So that's what we'll use for tomorrow and Thursday, talking about how things go down with Japan. So this is just kind of a nice place for us to hit the pause button, and we'll continue with it tomorrow. Whoops. There we go. All right, if you don't have your packet out already, if you will grab it for me, please. We're going to finish the page that we started yesterday, the 21-2. We're going to do 6 through 10 on the bottom. We're going to take a look at the timeline, and there is one other page we're going to look at today before I give you project work time. All right, 21-2 guided reading, which I know there's several things that we didn't hit until today anyway, but it's okay. We're going to finish it today. All right, so 6 through 10 is what we're going to wrap up. It says the Allies defeated Germany in Africa and in the Battle of the Atlantic. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad was a turning point of the war. Number 6 says Stalin won. And what are the other two allies? So what should go there?
German. We know.
Allies, good guys.
Oh, British and us.
U.S. and Britain, yes. So that goes in number 6. Stalin wanted the U.S. and Britain to open a second front by attacking Germany from the west to take the pressure off the Soviet Union. So again, for number 6, those two blanks, U.S. and Britain. Number 7, Egypt was very important to Britain because of, I'm going to help you out. We didn't really talk about this specific area, but it is the Suez Canal, and that's S-U-E-Z Canal, C-A-N-A-L. The route used by most of Britain's empire to send supplies to Britain. So this is where we're talking about Northern Africa. Number 8, the German African Corps was commanded by this general. And again, you need to remember him because he is going to be a test question. It is Erwin Rommel. I'm going to spell his name for you. Erwin is E-R-W-I-N. E-R-W-I-N, and Rommel is R-O-M-M-E-L. Erwin Rommel. A brilliant commander whose success earned him the nickname Desert Fox. Number 9, because of the city of Stalingrad controlled, hold on, some of this is really blurry. Controlled the resources. So resources for number 9. Because the city of Stalingrad controlled the resources and was a major railroad conjunction, capturing the city was key to Germany's attack. Number 10, the Battle of Stalingrad. And I know it's hard to see, but it's S-T-A-L-I-N-G-R-A-D. The Battle of Stalingrad was a major turning point of the war because that put the Germans on the defense. All right, go ahead and turn the page. We are going to look today also at 21-4. This one's also a fill in the blank, so just follow along with me, 21-4. This is what we got into today. Number 1 says the Allied invasion of North Africa for number 1. North Africa in November of 1942 had shown that a large-scale invasion from the sea was possible. Now, here's one thing we didn't talk about, but we probably will tomorrow. Number 2 says among the agreements reached there was a conference. It's called the Casablanca Conference. C-A-S-A-B-L-A-N-C-A. Casablanca. No, Casablanca's together. Yeah, Casablanca Conference. So if you know your Spanish, what does that stand for?
White House.
Yeah, White House. Yeah, Casablanca. So Casa is house, right? And then Blanca is the color white. Yeah. So Casablanca Conference was the decision to step up the bombing of Germany. Number 3, the bombing campaign between January of 1943 and May of 1945 caused a severe oil shortage in Germany and wrecked its railroads. So railroad is your answer for number 3. Railroads. So again, we're trying to cut off all supply lines so they can't keep going. Number 4, the Italian campaign was one of the bloodiest in the war, costing more than 300,000. That's your answer. 300,000 Allied casualties. Number 5, the Tehran Conference with Churchill and Roosevelt. Stalin promised to launch an invasion. That's your answer. Invasion for number 5. Excuse me. Invasion against the Germans when the Allies invaded France in 1944. Number 6, Stalin also promised that once Germany was defeated, the Soviet Union would help against what other Axis power in the Pacific? Against Japan. Yeah. So that's your answer for 6. Squeeze it in. Against Japan. These blanks aren't very big, but against Japan. That's who they promised to help us with next. Number 7, President Roosevelt chose who? What general is he going to choose to control things in Europe?
Eisenhower, right?
Eisenhower. There you go. So General Eisenhower, and I'll help you with his name. Eisenhower. Eisenhower. President Roosevelt chose Eisenhower to command the invasion known as Operation Overlord. What's the nickname for it? D-Day. Good. Number 8, the Germans believed that the Allies would land in Pas de l'Est. All right, it's French. All right, and I promise you my French probably is not that good, but it's 3 separate words. P-A-S space D-E space Calais, maybe? C-L-A-I-S.
C-L-A-I-S.
C-L-A-I-S. Yeah. So again, I probably butchered that pronunciation. But that was the area of France closest to Britain. So here it is. It happens. Number 9, on June 6th, 1944, nearly 7,000, that's blank 1, 7,000 ships carrying more than 100,000 soldiers set sail for the coast of Normandy. So the first blank is 7,000, the second is 100,000. Number 10 says American troops came under intense German fire and suffered heavy losses after their landing at, anybody remember the name of the beach?
Normandy.
Well, yeah, but there's 3 different sections. We hit Omaha. Yeah, Omaha Beach is where most American troops hit. Omaha, O-M-A-H-A. It's Omaha Beach, Utah Beach, and then the British hit another one. There's like 3 altogether that we hit, but Omaha Beach is where we suffered most. Number 11, while the buildup for invading France was taking place in Britain, American military leaders were also developing a strategy to defeat what other Axis power? Japan. Very good. So Japan for number 11. Number 12, the first part of America's 2-pronged attack on Japan called for the Pacific Fleet. Pacific Fleet. Because again, most of our fighting in the Pacific will be done on water. We will be using our battleships. So Pacific Fleet to hop from one island to the next. Number 13, the geographical problem with the Central Pacific was many of the islands were coral reefs. Coral reefs, very shallow locations, hard to get our battleships in there. Number 14, American military planners wanted to use the Marina Islands. I'll help spell that. M-A-R-I-A-N-A, Marina Islands, as a base for a new heavy bomber that could reach Japan. And number 15, you should know the name of this. If you need help spelling it, I'll help you out. Number 15, the Battle of Leyte Gulf was the first time that the Japanese had used what type of attacks? Well, I don't know why it says first time, because we had seen them at Pearl Harbor. Kamikaze attacks.
Yeah, I was trying to think of the name. I knew it was like suicide.
Yep. Kamikaze attacks. I'm going to throw you a bone. I'm going to help you spell kamikaze. All right. K-A-M-I-K-A-Z-E. Kamikaze. Kamikaze attacks. So that leads us into where we're going tomorrow, getting into the battle in the Pacific. That made me think of something, and I already forgot what it was. Shoot, it was a good fun fact, and I lost it. Oh well. All right, flip to the front. We're only going to do part of the timeline today because the second part of the timeline leads us into where we're going tomorrow. So we're just going to work on probably just that first and second paragraph. All right, so I'm going to read it to you. This is another one that copied really horribly awful. So I'm going to read it to you so you can see or hear it better, I guess. All right, the first date, it says on, your answer is June 6, 1944. Write that in blank one. June 6, 1944. A day known as D-Day. That's what you're going to hear it called most often. So blank 2 is D-Day. The Allied invasion of France began with landings on the beaches of Normandy. All right, the second one is a date. On August 25th, 1944, August 25th, 1944, the Allies liberated Paris from Nazi control. Another famous battle, the Battle of the Bulge. I know that's a lot to squeeze in. Battle of the Bulge for number 4. Took place just a few months later in December of 1944 when German troops pushed west against the Allied forces, causing the German line to bulge outward, hence the nickname of the battle. In March of 1945, the Allies discovered a bridge across the Rhine River that was still intact. They crossed the bridge, They crossed the bridge, pushing German forces back to Berlin. And on April 30th of 1945, the Nazi leader Adolf Hitler, so Hitler for number 5, Adolf Hitler, sensing immediate death or defeat, a little ironic there, immediate defeat, did commit suicide and was dead. A week later, in May of 1945, German, that's number 6, German forces surrendered to the Allies May 8th, 1945, which became known as VE Day. VE Day, also known as Victory in Europe Day. All right, so we're going to do the second paragraph tomorrow because we don't get into the Pacific until tomorrow. So hit the pause button and we will continue with our packets tomorrow because right now is project time. All right, so you've got several things to use this time wisely on. One could be working on defining the rest of your IDs. Trying to set goals for you. If you worked on defining the first 15 yesterday, you can do 16 through 30 today. If you've already done your definitions or you want to work on them later, then you can go and work on your World War II project. Hopefully by now you're working on the main course, if you will, the PowerPoint Google slide. And all that'll be left after that is to write your reflection. Or you can do research, you got your options, whatever you want to work on, but you've got plenty of stuff to do and a good solid 20 minutes. You're welcome to get some stuff accomplished. All right, what do we got? Questions, comments, concerns? Anything? Nope. Everybody's okay?
Well, actually, for the Monday, Friday where you gotta write the paper, is it like times everyone 12.5?
Yeah, that's my fault for not being
I just
specific.
couldn't remember. And then you want a double space too?
I do. I want to, yes, your paper needs to be double space, Times New Roman, 12 font. Yes. Yep. Good deal. All right. If my online people are good, I'm going to let you go. I apologize for the technical issues, for the delays this morning. We were trying to get ready for our book fair happening next week. That's what made me get behind on checking everything this morning.